What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a movie that is significantly older now, but that I was a big fan of when I was younger. And that is because it is created by filmmaker, television show creator Mike Judge, who recently I ranted and raved about how incredible the new iteration of King of the Hill is. I think Mike is an incredibly talented individual who has managed to, throughout his career, create some incredibly hilarious comedy that normally is associated with fantastic societal commentary as well, whether how subtle or on the nose that might be. And when I was growing up, I saw Idiocracy multiple times. I thought it was incredibly funny when I was a younger kid, but I haven't seen this movie in, God, it's been 10 plus years since I've watched this movie, if not longer. And I saw it was available to watch on Netflix, and I was like, considering the current administration running our country and a lot of the things surrounding them, I thought this movie was probably pretty poignant to revisit, and I was curious to see. I'm going to be 35 pretty soon, so I've been around for a while. I was curious as to how this was going to resonate with me comparatively to when I was younger, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about this movie with you today. Idiocracy is directed by Mike Judge. To test its top secret human hibernation project, the Pentagon picks the most average Americans it can find, an army private and a prostitute, and sends them to year 2505 after a series of freak events. But when they arrive, they find a civilization so dumbed down that they're the smartest people around. So I was super excited to watch this movie again. Like I said, I've seen this. This was probably like the 10th or 11th time I watched this movie because I watched it a lot when I was younger. And this is a really interesting thing for me where I loved something as a young kid, but now growing up and how I perceive media, I found a lot of this to be insufferable in a way that I found it to be so on the nose. It was almost irritating in a way that, like, it feels like a movie that thinks it's much smarter than it actually is. Like, this is someone, Mike Judge is someone who I really respect. I think he's very talented, and he's done a lot, especially with King of the Hill, when it comes to political and societal commentary, where there's a lot of nuance involved. It's not always like super on the nose, it's not always right in your face. There's a lot of intelligence behind what he writes, but I found that to be really lacking in this case. I feel like a lot of the assumptions that he was making about society, or a lot of the commentary surrounding it, was very juvenile in a way that, like, almost was worse than the people he was making fun of in particular moments. And I do still think there are elements of this movie that hold up and that are still pretty funny, but I think as an experience overall, it's just not a very good movie. It's like it's got sections that are entertaining, but as a whole cohesive narrative, I found it to be fundamentally flawed. And I'll talk about that when I break the movie down for you. So the beginning of the film, we're introduced to Joe Bauers, played by Luke Wilson, and he works for the military, and they tell you through some voiceover narration that he is the most average individual that you could possibly meet. Intelligence, IQ, all of those things, not above average, just kind of middle of the road in every conceivable way. And he works in this records office for the military that literally no one ever comes to, and he's told by one of his superiors that he is being volunteered for this thing and that he has to leave his position. Well, he finds out he's being volunteered for this new program that the military has created, that they're going to freeze their best soldiers in these time capsules so that they can open them up when they need them the most, like the best of the best people in the military that they want to have available when shit hits the fan. And so he is picked along with Rita, played by Rudolph, who is a sex worker that's paid a specific amount of money to be able to do that. And they're supposed to be frozen for 1 year and then taken back out and paid for doing this particular thing. Well, something happens with the people who are doing the experiment, and it's completely and totally forgot about, and the entire building is just left. The pods that they're in are moved and eventually, like, dumped, and so they're never discovered until the year 2505, where they come out of these capsules, and society has changed for the worst. Everyone is kind of just super unintelligent. They're trying to water the crops with Gatorade. The most popular show on TV is just a guy getting kicked in the nuts over and over again. These big businesses own everything. Society's filled with trash. And characters wake up and they're like, what the hell is going on? Well, eventually, Luke Wilson's character, they see him as the most intelligent person on the planet, even though he's the most middle of the road average guy imaginable. And the entirety of the film is him trying to figure out how to survive in this new world, and also possibly find out a way to time travel back to his time. So, like I said, I found this movie to be incredibly flawed this time around. I really did not enjoy it nearly as much as I did when I watched it when I was younger. But I will say, for the positives, some of the humor really still works for me. Particularly thinking about this current administration and like what they're doing surrounding like pharmaceuticals, their claims on Tylenol, just these ridiculous statements that have no validity or research done surrounding them. Thinking about this administration telling farmers to water their crops with Gatorade is not really that far off, because Trump right now, he'll just say something and there's literally no information backing it up. He just talks and people believe it. So I think, like, you know, you see something like that and it's like, okay, that's not so far-fetched. And there's some moments throughout the movie that I feel like are still really poignant and relevant, that work for me. I also think Luke Wilson and Maya Rudolph have pretty decent chemistry. It's not perfect, but I think they're two of the strongest elements of the movie. I feel like the supporting cast this time around when I was watching it, even Terry Crews, I found them to be very weak. They didn't add a whole lot to the movie, but anytime Maya Rudolph and Luke Wilson were on screen together, I found them to be irritating. I cannot stand Dax Shepard. I think he's one of the most unfunny humans alive. And I think in this particular film, he is really, really awful. And I understand, like, he's supposed to be an idiot, but like his character, that they want you to see him as kind of the lovable idiot by the end of the movie, and he's not. He's just really grating and irritating. And I just found that about a lot of the supporting cast in this movie. And I do like the world. I think obviously a lot of the, you know, way that they filmed it, it's a little dated, but Mike Judge did the best that he possibly could in this particular time period with the money that he has. But the problem with this is the pacing and the structure is kind of miserable to get to. I feel like everything is like trying to build up to set up the next joke, and there's so many moments throughout this, like with the whole segment where Luke Wilson's character goes to prison. I just found it to be kind of grating to get through this time. I didn't think that it was all that funny. There's a lot of jokes in it, like the Starbucks being like where sex workers work. Like they try to like take a lot of things that you know and just shift it in the most absurd way possible, but it doesn't always land. It's almost like it's too filled with them trying to kind of poke and nod, like the Costco references and all of those things. It just didn't work for me completely. I also find a lot of the dated humor in this surrounding like slurs that they use, especially homophobic slurs and things of that nature, even though it was more normal in this time period for things like that to be thrown around. And I get like it's depicting people with a lesser intelligence. To me, it was like this time, it felt like it was relying so heavily on that. And I feel like there's a way that you could approach it and make it funnier without doing those things. And obviously in that time period, like every major comedy network was throwing around homophobic slurs all the time. But there's even one moment where like a white guy dropped the N-word in this, and I was kind of surprised by it. Like I didn't expect to see that coming, and I get how they were trying to use it to play for a comedic punch, but it didn't work. It just felt like it was shock value for shock value's sake, which is not what I'm normally used to seeing Mike Judge do. I mean, I guess Beavis and Butthead has elements of that, but I'm used to more like King of the Hill style, or like even something like Extract, where I feel like there's some absurdity in there, but it's more nuanced comedy. But in this particular case, I was kind of annoyed with it. And there's also like really the way that the movie views like the wealthier class versus people that come from lower income areas. I feel like it's a really kind of like classist liberal way to look at the societal structure, and like not considering, you know, wealth disparity and how it affects certain people. And the movie kind of just seems like poor people are dumb and breed idiots. And while like sure there are people in lower income areas that are in super conservative pockets of the world that do breed more conservatives, that breed more idiocy in society, it's kind of blanketed in a way that it feels like there isn't a whole lot of like diving into these concepts or doing it in a way that you think about it on a larger scale. And then it's like the elite or the rich in this, it's like, oh, they're not gonna procreate because of all their like first world problems or whatever. I just felt like this was like a college freshman's attempt at like trying to make some sort of political and societal commentary. Like there are funny moments for sure, but like there's so many moments that I was like, this isn't funny. Like even like the way the third act plays out, when I was a kid I thought it was really hilarious, and I was just like, man, I'm ready for this to be over. It's like an hour and 20 minutes long, and I was kind of irritated by it. And I don't know if I'll ever watch this again, which is kind of a shame because I used to really like it as a kid, but this time around, this really was not for me. You seen Idiocracy? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was relatively insufferable. Despite there being some really funny moments, I definitely did not enjoy it as much as I did when I was a kid. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.